Ever imagine, like, hopping in a time machine and actually meeting our early human ancestors?
Oh, wow.
Not talking about, the Hollywood version with the loincloths and grunting around a fire.
Right, right.
Today's deep dive, we're using those real archaeological clues to uncover, like, just how complex those early hominins really were.
It's amazing what we can like figure out from a handful of bones and a few ancient tools, you
Yeah.
know?
I know, right?
Even like fossilized teeth can tell us so much.
It's like detective work, but with, like, ancient history.
Totally.
And speaking of detective work, we're diving into Cyborgs versus the Earth Goddess
Oh, interesting.
by Dr. M. Seenarine.
Okay.
And he's got this really interesting background. He's an anthropologist, but he's also a gender studies expert.
Wow. Okay, so he's coming at it from a unique angle.
Totally.
Hmm.
And he really challenges that classic man the hunter story. The one we all learned in, like, grade school.
Yeah, it's a narrative that's been around forever. What's his take on it?
Well, he's basically saying it's not the whole picture.
Okay, I can see that.
So, like, we've all heard about early humans being these big, bad meat eaters, right?
The ultimate paleo dieters,
Oh,
right?
But, like, where does that idea even come from?
Well, think about it. What lasts in the archaeological record? Stone tools, they last for ages.
Right, they're not going anywhere.
But all that other stuff early humans might have used, like wood, fibers, anything organic, long gone.
So it's like finding a rusty wrench in your grandma's attic and assuming she was a mechanic.
Exactly. You're missing a huge part of the story.
So we're, like, biased towards what survives, not necessarily what was actually going on.
Exactly.
So how do we get a more, like, well-rounded view of their diet then?
Well, get this. Bental plaque.
Wait, really?
Seriously, it's a gold mine. Like, they analyzed the plaque from Australopithecus sediba, that's a hominin from like 2 million years ago.
Okay.
And guess what they found?
What?
A seriously plant-based diet. Bark, leaves, fruit, the whole shebang.
Wow, so much for those paleo diet gurus, huh?
Rice.
Okay, but it gets even more wild. Like, have you heard of Homo floresiensis? They're nicknamed the hobbits because they were so small.
Oh, yeah, they were using tools, right? Even with those tiny brains.
Wait, they were making tools?
Yeah, their brains were only about the size of a chimp's.
Whoa, hold on. Tools with brains that small. I thought bigger brains meant, like, smarter.
You'd think, right? But Homo floresiensis really challenges that whole idea. The main theory is something called insular dwarfism. Basically, on islands with limited resources, you sometimes get smaller body size over generations. So they evolved, but they were still totally capable.
That's wild. So, like, were they chill with other hominins who might have been around, like early Homo sapiens? Or was it more like, this is my turf?
That is a great question. And honestly, it's something archaeologists are still trying to piece together.
Really?
Yeah. And speaking of intriguing hominins, let's talk about Homo naledi, another small brain hominin, but with a big surprise.
Okay, hit me.
They were found in a cave that seems like it was a burial site, a deliberate one.
Hold up. A burial site. Doesn't that, like, require some pretty complex thinking? Maybe even spiritual beliefs. And they had smaller brains, right?
You're getting at a huge point here.
Yeah.
Burial rituals aren't just digging a hole, you know? It suggests they understood death, maybe even had beliefs about the afterlife. The fact that Homo naledi did this with their smaller brains, it adds a whole other layer to hominin evolution.
Okay, so we've got Homo floresiensis making tools, Homo naledi having burial rituals. It's like that whole bigger brains equal more advanced idea isn't the whole story at all.
Exactly. And get this, both Homo floresiensis and Homo naledi were around at the same time as early Homo sapiens. It wasn't a straight line from one to the next.
Oh, wow.
More like a mosaic with different hominin species overlapping, maybe even hanging out. Who knows?
This is already blowing my mind. And we haven't even gotten to Neanderthals yet. Okay, Neanderthals. They always get painted as these, like, grunting cavemen. But isn't it wild that most of us actually have a little bit of Neanderthal DNA?
It's true.
Like, were they really so different from us?
It makes you wonder, right? And honestly, that whole image of Neanderthals just focused on hunting, all brute strength, newer discoveries are showing it's more complex than that.
Okay, so, like, what else were they up to?
Well, for one, their diets. They weren't just surviving on, like, woolly mammoth steaks.
Really? What else were they eating?
We're finding evidence of plants in their diet, which tells us they were gathering, cooking a wider range of foods, just like, their Homo sapiens neighbors.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
You wouldn't last for thousands of years in all those different environments just eating one thing.
Right. They had to be adaptable, resourceful.
Yeah.
And get this, they might have even developed some pretty advanced technologies before Homo sapiens.
Whoa, seriously? Like what? What kind of technology?
There's evidence suggesting they might have been building boats, rafts, something to navigate the seas long before Homo sapiens ever did.
No way. Boats. So they were sailing around.
It seems that way. Think about the skill that would take, the ingenuity.
That's a game changer. Neanderthals sailing the seas while our ancestors were still trying to figure out which berries wouldn't kill them. It really makes you think, did our ancestors see them as a threat?
It's an interesting thought, isn't it? Did they see their otherness and, get a little worried? Could that be part of why Neanderthals disappeared?
It makes you wonder how we view those who are different from us, even today. So, Neanderthals, they're more advanced than we thought. Sailing, diverse diets, the whole 9 yards. What about other early humans? Are there other branches on this family tree we should know about?
Definitely. Let's talk about the Denisovans. A little less famous, maybe, but with a fascinating story and a surprising connection to people living today, particularly in South Asia.
South Asia. Okay, now I'm really interested. What's the story there?
So picture this. A cave in Siberia, untouched for like 40,000 years. And inside, archaeologists find this incredible artifact, a bracelet, exquisitely made.
Wait, a bracelet from 40,000 years ago.
You heard that right.
What did it look like?
It was polished, probably had a pendant, something really special. Think about the craftsmanship. To make something so intricate back then with the tools they had, that took serious skill. It tells us their social structure was more complex than we might assume.
I'm picturing this ancient bracelet, and it's giving me chills. But what does it tell us about the Denisovans themselves?
What we know from studying ancient jewelry, these kinds of adornments, they were primarily worn by women.
So a Denisovan fashionista.
Maybe. But more importantly, it points to something we've been talking about, the role of women in these societies. Not just man the hunter, but women as artists, innovators, maybe even leaders. We're starting to see a bigger picture here.
It's like you're putting together a puzzle, but for so long we only had half the pieces.
And don't forget, a big reason for that is what survives in the archaeological record. Stone tools, they last. But all those things women likely used for gathering, preparing food, even crafting, those were probably made of organic materials. They wouldn't last the same way.
So it's like trying to understand cooking by only looking at cast iron skillets. You're missing a whole world of tools and techniques.
Exactly. And those tools and techniques, a lot of them were probably developed and passed down by women, essential for survival.
It makes you wonder, what if progress wasn't just about hunting? What if it was just as much about those gathering skills?
Dr. Seenarine really digs into that. He challenges that whole assumption that progress equals men and hunting.
I mean, when you think about it, knowing what plants to eat, how to process them, how to keep them from spoiling, that's huge for survival.
It is huge. Imagine the knowledge it took to do that, to look at a plant and know it was safe, to understand the seasons, how to make food last. That's observation, experimentation, passing down knowledge through generations.
They were like scientists in their own right.
They were making discoveries that were absolutely crucial. And that's what we often miss when we focus just on hunting.
It's like we're finally acknowledging this whole other side of the story, the side that's always been there.
And it has the potential to change how we see our past, maybe even offer some lessons for a more equitable future.
It's amazing how, we're just scratching the surface of what we thought we knew about these early humans. All this potential, all this innovation, and we're just starting to see it.
It really makes you question everything, doesn't it?
It totally does. So how do we, start filling in the gaps? Where do we go from here?
Well, I think it starts with a shift in perspective. We have to be willing to look beyond the traditional stories we tell about the past.
Yeah, be open to new possibilities.
Exactly. We need to ask different questions, be open to new interpretations, and really accept that our ancestors were way more complex than we give them credit for.
It's like we're solving this giant mystery, but the clues are, scattered throughout history.
That's a great way to put it. And sometimes the most important clues are the ones we've been ignoring.
Okay, like what? Give me an example.
Well, take those female figurines. The ones they always show in documentaries about early humans.
Oh, yeah, the ones that are, super curvy. What's the deal with those?
Right. They're everywhere, all these archaeological sites. And they've puzzled archaeologists for, forever.
So what do they mean?
It's still up for debate, but a lot of archaeologists think they represent female power, fertility, maybe even a connection to the spiritual realm.
Huh. So not just decorations.
Right. They could have been sacred objects used in rituals, ceremonies. We don't know for sure, but it's fascinating to think about.
It really is. I mean, if these statues could talk, imagine the stories they could tell.
Right. And it challenges this idea that early art was only about hunting or male dominance. It points to something much deeper, this reverence for female power, for creativity, a connection to nature, to life itself.
It's incredible how much we can learn from just, like, a few small statues.
Huh.
Makes you wonder what else is out there waiting to be discovered.
I think that's what makes studying the past so exciting. It's a constant process of discovery.
And it reminds us to be humble, to approach the past with an open mind, because there's always more to learn.
Absolutely. The more we learn about our ancestors, the more we realize how much they can still teach us about ourselves, about our potential, our creativity, our capacity for, cooperation.
It's kind of humbling, isn't it?
Yeah.
These early humans, they had such different lives, different tools, but they were grappling with some of the same big questions we still think about today.
It's that shared human experience, it transcends time.
It really does.
Yeah.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive, that's for sure. We challenged the old man the hunter story, looked at the possible roles of women, and uncovered all this evidence of their ingenuity.
It's amazing how much our understanding of the past can change when we start asking new questions and really listening to what the evidence is telling us.
It's like we're constantly rewriting history.
Right. In a way, yes. We're always learning, always refining our understanding, and that's what makes it so fascinating.
Absolutely. So for anyone listening who wants to really dig into this stuff, I highly recommend checking out Cyborgs versus the Earth Goddess by Dr. M. Seenarine. It's a game changer.
It really makes you think, challenges you to see the world and our place in it in a whole new light.
And remember, this is just the beginning of the conversation. There's so much more to learn about our amazing human family tree. So many stories waiting to be told.
Keep asking those questions. Keep exploring. You never know what you might discover.
And on that note, we'll wrap up this deep dive. Until next time, stay curious.